interesting enough that you mentioned this New York Times story about the Dogecoin millionaire, because Puffy, did I not talk about that the other night? Puffy's talking. Tanya's lecturing him right now.
I thought you mentioned something about.
I was getting in trouble.
Wasn't I talking about the Dogecoin millionaire the other night? Was I talking to you about that or somebody else? Yes. So I listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
I'd recommend the New York Times podcast. You can go find that episode. Fascinating story about a guy who basically wanted to be in the music business, Lester, in LA. That was his dream. And he wanted to have a house where we could live with musicians. Very poor guy in LA, got a job making like $30K a year. In February, discovers, I think he listened to our podcast and he heard about the GameStop thing. And he said to himself, man, I got to be in on the next GameStop. And then he started discovering Dogecoin when Elon Musk started tweeting about it. Bottom line, he's saved up about 20 grand. He goes and takes a loan out. He puts 250 grand into Dogecoin at 4 cents. Obviously, Dogecoin blows up, as we've talked about. It went to 70 cents, so it was worth whatever, 4 million, 5 million. They don't talk about that in the thing. But the punchline here, I think, in this story is that he hasn't sold. And he is refusing to sell.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is insane. If Dogecoin goes... He says if Dogecoin goes to a cent, he won't sell. He'll just buy more. And I admire the gumption, but buddy, just take $1 million and let the rest ride. Because this will
pay off your creditors. Pay off your creditors.
Pay off your creditors. Pay off people you were poor.
If you lose your own money after whatever, but you're gonna want, if you lose it all and people come hounding you for the money, the 200,000 you borrowed, that ain't gonna be pretty.
Well, look, isn't this also? I mean, listen, I hate to point this out again, but isn't this currency ultimately just a joke anyway? Like,
well, it's a joke that it's sort of become a little more serious, and now that Elon's
it's volatile is how I would put it.
It's incredibly volatile. I don't think it's a joke anymore when it's worth gazillions of dollars. It certainly started as a joke, and there is arguments as to whether it actually has value in the world. But yeah,
we also live in a society where a joke tends to trend, and then people will jump on it. And so, I guess that's how some people were able to read into this. The other thing I think is important to point out, though, is you don't read stories about guys who spend their life savings and take massive loans out, invest in something, and then lose all that money. You read this one story about this one particular guy, and that's all there is. And I bet you the other way happens way more often.
Way more often.
And it doesn't work out in this pretty little way. Yeah.
Look,
so
this is North.
It should be a bit more caution, I think, because a lot of people look at this and like, well, this guy was a genius. No, because like 100 guys to this guy one look like morons when it doesn't work out.
100%. And he's even looking more foolish because he won't sell it. Get out. Even sell half of
it.
He's sell a bit.
Having said all this, are we going to pool our money together and buy some cryptocurrency?
Yeah, we got to buy one of those stuff seems like
to be winning.
Can we start our own?
0.001 cents or something? Yeah, we've been thinking about
BootCoins.
BootCoins. Yeah,
there you go.
That's true.
Let's put a value on it right now. There's going to be a maximum of, because Bitcoin is 21 million or something like that, the maximum. For BootCoin, we're going to make it less. There's only going to be 4 coins.
Yes.
And so right now we're going to set their value at $1 million a coin. You can start bidding on them from there. $1 million a coin. So BootCoin
we're doing it right.
Has a small cap value of 4 million.
This is how Elon started out, trust me.
Yeah, you can buy like a little part of a BootCoin. You don't have to buy the whole BootCoin.
That's a good point.
Okay, that's true.
Unfortunately,
so BootCoin, I
just bought the 3 of you out. I own all 4 of the BootCoins.
Enjoy.
And the price is dropping.
Look, this is where people come for financial advice. We're now I think the number 1 or number 2 business advice podcast out there. When you put a long shot wager down, you bet on any stock. As soon as, if it goes up, you take out your investment, right? If the stock triples, take out your investment, whatever you put into it, and let the rest of it ride. It's a very simple formula. You'll never lose that way, right? At least you should take out probably more of your investment, take out some profits, but at minimum, take out your investment. If you do well, then you're guaranteed. I've broken that rule multiple times.
Now, I have a question for you. I've been reading a lot about this cryptocurrency. And Bitcoin I apparently gets mined, and it is bad for the environment. Can you explain this to me? What mining Bitcoin and how it's bad for the environment?
Of course I can, because I am a cryptocurrency
This is where
expert.
you come for these answers.
I've seen some video on TV, and
okay.
and I think it was a 60 minutes
and read
piece
some podcast notes, maybe.
Yeah, and they showed where the Bitcoin stuff is being mined. And basically, have you ever seen, like in the movies where they have to break into some supercomputer, and it's somewhere in the middle of the desert, there's like this massive buildings with all sorts of hundreds of millions of computers. Like, I think that's how Facebook and all these things run, right?
Mission Impossible and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's basically, I think, what the Bitcoin thing is like. So you got all these things using the electricity to mine the Bitcoin, sending out emissions.
The one thing...
That's it. I explained
they actually, instead of in the middle of the desert, they do stick to cooler climates because of how hot everything gets. And if it's hot, it uses more energy.
Right.
But yeah, Bitcoin is...
Greenland. It's in Greenland. Most of Greenland is Bitcoin machines now. Yeah.
Apparently there's some in the prairies in Canada as well, actually.
And Saskatchewan. That actually is what Chris Baudry was doing. He was seeding Bitcoin machines.
He was mining Bitcoin.
No wonder he can't sleep.
So it's,
anyway, I don't know. It's a lot of
Bitcoin
machines.
wasn't a real
Bitcoin
thing.
is killing the planet, basically, is what's happening.
Yeah. And Puffy, the story is that Elon Musk tweeted on last week that you can no longer buy a Tesla with Bitcoin because it's too many emissions.
Yeah. Right.
And now, Bitcoin has been tumbling since then.
Elon tweets that it's obviously he has his own personal his own personal stuff on the line there because he has his own crypto. So I take that with a grain of salt, but I'll just read you a couple of things here. So according to a report, Bitcoin prices caused an astronomical surge in CO2 emissions, increased them by 40 million tons. That's the equivalent of adding 8.9 million cars to the roads today.
Wow.
So that's how it's bad for the environment.
So it's emissions from the computers?
Yeah, just from using using that much power and using that much energy, it produces more carbon emissions than American Airlines does. So it is a very significant thing, and it is something.
Now the Bitcoiners,
the
Bitcoiners argue something about that. In the long run, it's actually more efficient if it replaces something. Or I don't get it. I just know buy gold and silver because I don't think there's any harm done when you mine gold and silver.
Oh,